Hello, my name is Jason Perry, and I'm going to be talking with you today about recognizing the barriers to paternal involvement and giving you some strategies for overcoming them. The barrier that we're going to be talking about today, it has to do with the methods for recruiting fathers to programs. And so, one of the questions that we address with this is quite simply, where are the dads? How do you find fathers to populate your program? How do you find fathers to be engaged in the services that you have available for them? And the simple message that I want to give you today is that you must be intentional and strategic in order to reach fathers. And in this video, I will provide you with a list of strategies that you can employ to recruiting fathers to your program. So let's just jump right in. So, how do you overcome this barrier of not knowing how to find fathers? So, let's look at that. I'm going to give you about 5 or 6 strategies. The first one is very simple. Use fathers as a resource to reach other fathers. Satisfied customers are always your best option. So leverage those established relationships that you already have to build new ones. Fathers know where other fathers are, and fathers speak their language. So they are great resources that you have available right there at your fingertips. A second thing that you can do is understand that the best way to begin to provide outreach to this population is by specifically targeting fathers and not just the family in general, or not just talking about parenting. Because sometimes fathers have a different idea of what that word parenting means for them. And so to be inclusive is to really target fathers. What are some ways that you can do that? You can start to accomplish this by inviting fathers to individually or specifically in person or by phone. You can also just use social media by separately sending copies of the information to the father if, for example, he does not live with the mother and the child. So be specific. Don't just assume that the father is going to get the information, but be very specific in making sure that he is specifically being targeted and he knows that you are interested in him. Here's another thing is that include space for fathers on the contact information form. Specify the word father when reaching out. The word parent, again, as I mentioned already, is often viewed as mother. So fathers believe that that's what you're saying very often when you say parent. They are used to being excluded. And so this is a great opportunity for you to specifically include those fathers. But on that contact form, make sure you leave a space for fathers. Another thing is being when it comes to young fathers or teen fathers, it's important that you refer to them as young fathers, not just as teenagers. Again, that can kind of seem condescending, like you don't really take them seriously. So it also calls them out and calls them into a greater sense of responsibility. They're not just teenagers; they are young fathers. In my research and preparing for this, I came across several resources, some of which I will give you at the end of this video. But in one of them, it talks about some of the specific things that you should know, some 5 things that you should know when recruiting young fathers. One of them is visibility. You need to be well known, or whoever's recruiting needs to have a high profile within that community, so that those fathers know that there is a resource available to them. And like I said, with the other fathers, include these young fathers in planning and recruitment. Ask the fathers, do you know of peers who could also benefit from some of the things that you are learning? Be flexible. Have some incentives. Fathers are often focused upon, and one of the things that keeps them from being engaged the way they should, is some of the immediate felt needs that they have. So time-wise is an issue if they're working, or what time you're offering these programs. And you have to just simply give them some incentives, help them know, yes, the child is important, but again, young fathers sometimes need some incentives to get involved. Provide some support to overcome those challenges that they're facing. That's some of what the incentives are about. And then also create a safe space. Create a space where these young men know that when they come, they're going to be respected, they're going to be supported, they're going to be equipped and empowered, and they're not going to be emotionally beat up or in any kind of way emotionally, relationally harmed by being involved in this program. So very, very important thing to keep these young men and these young fathers involved. Um, Next thing is build rapport prior to events. If fathers think that the only reason you're interested in them is the program, it's going to be kind of challenging to get them to even commit to the program. But if you build rapport with them, build relationship with them prior to the event, they're more likely to be engaged and get involved. Use something that's a hook to get them involved. Talk to them about what's going to be going on. Just build relationship. That's really what that's about. Another thing that you can do is that, again, involve the mothers in the process. Encourage the mothers to encourage the baby's father to get involved. That's also very important. And as I already mentioned once before, be flexible. Understand that the timing of your program is also a factor in engaging fathers. It may be easier to engage a father in a program if you can schedule appointments for early mornings, evenings, or maybe even weekends. So I'm going to close out with just a few more resources for you, some articles here that address the challenges and the solutions for recruiting fathers. Um, couple of articles from fatherhood.org, another which are some slides about tools for recruiting and retaining young fathers in the program. So we hope and trust that these tips will enhance your efforts to increase your capacity to reach fathers. And again, as always, I thank you for your efforts to reach fathers.